Good morning.
Ash,
Hi, SK. I think SK is new, but
Sash, yeah.
just are the old culprit. So, one thing is that we are live today. So, that's the amazing thing I achieved in last 30 minutes. So, I think we should be proud. We all should be proud of us. Okay. I think we can get started
Yeah,
because people will continue to join. I think there are more people waiting in the room. Expect more than 10 people because the invite was little
do you want to make one
at
of
this.
us the admin? We can let people in without disturbing you.
Now, that would be awesome.
Happy
Uh,
to help. Just let me know what I can do.
Harsha, I can make Harsha the admin. Let's see if I can. But then I will I be able to admit? I think
The LinkedIn Live is that on, Mahesh?
is it not working?
I don't see it started. Maybe does anybody else see it being started or no?
I'm checking right now.
Yeah, from my side it says up and running. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, it's live on LinkedIn too. It's showing my face on LinkedIn. So, but yeah, it is live.
Hmm.
Awesome. First of all, welcome and let's get started. So, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Awesome. Awesome. Are you guys seeing two of me? Like, are you seeing echo of me again, like after 2 seconds from the live stream page?
I
No?
I I don't see the live screen on.
Don't worry about it. Let's just continue, right? I think it's on and we will.
So live stream is working just fine. It's a little lagged, but it looks just fine.
Okay, can you hear me now? And we
Yes,
can get started. Always 5 minutes late, but I think it's a good start. Can you guys all see my screen? Hi,
yes.
Swati. One request, if you can come on camera, it's always good to see faces. I know some people came on camera, then left. I think it's always good for me to just like tackle or talk to you rather than just talk to these bots. So whenever possible, please come on camera. That's the only request I have. And we are getting with our community session number 3. And today I got one more thing working. Look at that. How cool is that?
Um,
Can you
did you
see
make
my?
me did you make me admin so I can let people in or?
That's okay. I will let in. There is not many people I'm expecting, so I think
Yeah.
we are good to go. So I think we are good to go because the challenge is then I have to make you give me permission to share my screen and all that, right? So let's just continue. First of all, welcome people who are joining on LinkedIn and here, and I can see Brijesh. That's amazing. Now I have less things to worry about. So okay, continuing on our journey, I think we'll talk about current trends today. There are few things top of my mind, uh, and I will share that, and we'll then continue to evaluate on path on how to evaluate LLM. We talked about. We'll do all this. Don't worry about this. Let's get started. Top of mind. There was this report from WSJ. Have you guys seen it? How many of you have seen it? Let's go through this. It talks about AI talent is in demand, other tech job listing decline. It talks about IT jobs are going less, while there is some 21% or so jump in AI jobs from 2023. Both were kind of similar, but suddenly I think a lot of people have identified that they need generative AI, or this is the Q1, so everybody got headcounts and they started hiring. That's what happened last year, like planning. This year, planning, everybody had a chart which was like transform my business with AI. And finally, they start getting a budget because story was happening for a whole last year. But the planning happened in like November, December. You are the people who did the planning. So, and this year planning seems like there is a budget which is coming here in this curve. And then they also talked about like AI jobs are up 42% compared to December. IT job listings were 31% down in January compared to where we were in December, from here to here, basically. And then they talked about like AI related jobs is going like past 6 months. So there was this discussion on our Slack channel. If you're not on Slack channel, please contact Harsha. He will be happy to add you. We discuss a lot of stuff. I post if somebody is hiring. One of my friend is hiring. I will talk about that also. So then we have what are they looking for? These are the skills. Project management is less, but right now a lot of things are happening in research or people are actually putting it into code. So that's where things are going. And then they talk about like the salary range. I know the salary range does not depict the world, but that's the high paying AI. At least they show that if you have AI in your CV, you are supposed to get more. So that's proven across every kind of, and especially the data manager, I think, is like biggest bump. But after that, engineer, and after that, I think the product manager, which I have seen, like I can act this data, which is that product manager who supposedly have AI skills or understand AI are kind of able to negotiate more than people who don't. So that's TLDR on this report. Uh, any takes? Anybody disagree? If you disagree, I can handle questions. But if you agree, let's continue.
I have a quick question, Mahesh. Based on what, I mean, the report is a report, right? But
Yeah,
how
of
many
course.
companies are actually understanding what problems they are trying to solve with AI? I mean, everybody wants everybody with AI, sure. But as a problems, do you see any improvement in the problem statement itself that I want to solve, I don't know, decreasing denials in healthcare using AI?
Yeah. No, I
And
think
a lot
I
of
think a couple of
gap
things.
there.
So first, I think the potential of generative AI, which is this idea that it's gonna make compute accessible to everybody, which is this idea, which is what is happening in fundamentally, right? What the Gen AI is trying to solve or do is like make us all go into this. I'm gonna just play with my mirror image, and it's going very, very hard. Okay, now it looks good. So I think the idea is that you go what's happening with Gen AI uh, inside like enterprises. Or last year it was more about the excitement, like everywhere Gen AI, everything, everywhere. I need to go, go, go. But people are now saying, okay, where can we realize the quick benefits of this? So where can they realize quick benefits of this? One is there is always this back office work that companies have, which is how you run your business, which is if you look at marketing, how you provide support, how you handle legal aspects of your company. These are like ripe for change. And there was never like really AI or anything kind of touch those. So they're picking minimum wins. So that's very clear in pretty much everybody I'm talking to, or friends I know, that every company is taking that use case and going, because they're not facing the challenge of dealing with customers directly or losing their customer trust with their core product. They're making themselves efficient. So that, I think, if you see a job or if you see that, that's definitely real. It has a thought through strategy. That's number one. Second is the tooling. A lot of people are building those tooling or building these engineering machines, which is like, how can we ingest our data, or how can we host or take APIs and ingest them into our products to offer the next level? Like if you look at uh, who have recently launched Notion AI, you have seen that for like 6 months now. They are saying, okay, now you can generate with in context data. So it's context within, it's generation within context. That's what the unique they are offering. So more and more on that, but that's what's happening. And overall, I think what's happening is that with Gen AI, first time we are seeing compute getting monetized quickly with companies.
Mhm.
So if you see, like, storage was the deal before, right? We wanted bigger and big hard drives because all we did with our computers is watch movies. And then somebody said, oh, you can actually store them. And BitTorrents of the world came along, and we said, oh, these are the like big things. Compute was like, what compute you need? You download it and then you watch it. It was working. And then we saw different application of scaling storage, which is around Facebook, and then you saw Box, and then you saw Gmail. If you remember the days when Yahoo was like a paid service, and beyond that, we like, this was a full-time job every week for me to go delete my emails. Gmail took that bet on storage, which was saying that, hey, let's just give 1 GB free to everybody. And then next year they went into 2 GB, which is, they see this, that storage will be commoditized and people will be able to monetize storage, not from direct customers, but using that in some other ways, right? So you don't pay for storage, somebody else pays for storage. But because storage is so cheap, its efficiency or its results can be monetized. So that happened to storage. AGI is saying the same thing for compute, because nobody did it. Like, we always talked about it, but it was so hard, right, for us, all of us, to get emails and store them, take pictures and store them, was a killer use case. We have compute use case also. We all want to just say, hey, write me a newsletter for tomorrow, create a strategy for this, do this. AGI is the first attempt of saying compute can be generalized and made available to everybody, right? So that's what's happening fundamentally, I would say, in Gen AI space. And the promise is higher, and the applications are showing up from people trying to get their own system efficient because they have data, they can actually measure the impact, and which we will talk about. SK, I took a whole spill on this, but that's
That's good.
all I wanted to
Thank you.
talk about in this slide. Harsha has a question.
Yes, Mahesh, we want to get your perspective on AI resistance, right? In the years, in a couple of years back, whenever we went and proposed any AI-based initiative, there used to be resistance from, people working from, actual customers saying, hey, why do we need this? It will take away our jobs. And, is it really necessary? Is AI promising, living up to the hype and things like that? So I'm just wondering how much of AI resistance factor went into that Wall Street Journal, study, or do you think that AI resistance has gone down drastically?
Oh, maybe I'm living in a bubble, right? Because I live in, like, my experience is coming from large companies which are basically a little bit ahead on AI curve, or are supposedly supposed to be ahead of AI curve. So I think that resistance was gone in 2023. The moment people saw ChatGPT and the adoption with 250 million people, and after that, the kind of valuation and everybody, and then the stocks coming along, like the whole uh, investments and so I think how it works is, first you try to prove a technology, then you say how much disruption can it bring, and then the markets follow with their bets on that technology. So I think those three things happened last year, like this time. And by March, people were sure that they needed something to pivot. They all started experimenting. I think June, July, nobody was resisting. They were mostly like, man, either I need to first adopt it. If I can't adopt it, can I plan it? And if I can't plan it, can I just talk about it? So I think if you look at, like, my view of a lot of, like, how, when there is a study on this which people show, like Facebook was talking about a lot about this idea of metaverse, and they shifted the narrative June last year, and they said, no, 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 we are AGI. And since then their stock, you see, like, almost like three times.
Mhm.
So resistance is gone, uh, excitement is there. I am more about worried about that when it becomes a bubble, even inside companies. Right now, I'm not seeing it, but I think the worry is not about resistance anymore. It's about, are we basically able to set realistic expectation, and that's what our job is. And hopefully, today's session will take us there.
Absolutely, because when you see those headline from Klarna, which says, "Oh, I replaced 700 employees with one customer chatbot solution." So I'm just wondering what impact it could have to people, or things like that. But anyway, as you said, it's a new era and new things, so people are excited about it. They have seen something as awesome as ChatGPT, and hopefully it should grow. Yeah.
But you see the impact, right? Means you yourself can see the impact, right? It's no more like that you have to invest a lot to see the impact. You can take an API from Azure or AWS or GCP, and you iterate and you see efficiency. People need not to summarize their things. Uh, a back office team, which was supposed to do this reporting to SEC, need not to hire three people to write that report anymore. It was mostly documentation, and I think GPT or any model which is generic enough can do it. Kalpan, go ahead. I will take this last question, then we'll move on. That was top of mind for me. One thing or more I want to talk about, but yeah, Kalpan.
Just real quick, I know the precious is about time here, but really, I feel like the first time in the trend you talked about from storage to all of these other capabilities, the first time ever I see there is a huge supply constraint in two ways. One is real availability of those chips,
Yep.
and more than that, I think it's about the cost of those chips, which you mentioned that I can spin up few CPUs to do some experiment 10, 20 years ago, or buy more storage. There was no supply constraint, and it wasn't cost prohibiting. Now there are two changes. One, chips are not easily available, and those that are available are highly costly. So two kind of changes or supply demand gaps. Even if you say there are so many jobs, there are actually those jobs, many of them are real, most of them, but then they're waiting for the chips to arrive sometimes.
Yeah, no, I think, and I would just put like people constraint as well. I know it's hard to see it for you guys because if you're looking for a job and you're not getting a lot of interviews, you might think that the demand is not there. But on the other side, we don't have chips and we don't have people, and both needs to be scaled this year. So people have charter, people have budgets, and they're looking for people. On the other side, they are also looking for infrastructure. I think infrastructure-wise, the problem is mostly with cloud providers because these common aggregators are trying to solve that problem. And then the large players like Facebook, if you look at like Mark coming on live and talking about he's just talking about his moat. He's saying, I'm building the largest cluster. That's the moat now. It's no more the model. It's no more what you could do with the model. It's who has the largest cluster because they can experiment faster. We will see that in Sora story also that we'll discuss next. One last thing, I think what happens is one critical aspect that people miss when you are like preparing or even getting ready for this new world is understanding the generative AI market. Uh, People will ask you questions like, hey, what do you think about this newly released Sora model? And what they want to understand is how deeply you have thought about it. If you're going to say the same thing, which is, yeah, heard it, it is a video generating, I give text, it gives videos, uh, that's like common knowledge. But make an opinionated view from product perspective. What it is, what are the limitations of it? How is it built? Is it like transformational? If it is transformational, what are the future version of this would look like? What industries can it impact? What are the limitations of it, technical limitations? And then look at like what are the social or like other productionalization challenges. That takes us to our story of our next case study today, which is today I'm going to just do slideshows, right? This is like so cool today. Hopefully this moves forward. Okay, OpenAI released Sora. So anything that came out of anybody want to share about like Sora, if you read it, anything that comes top of mind? For me, it was like it's a combination of two streams where we have seen like the stability world, like stability diffusion or stability.ai, have gone into this world of generating using diffusion models and using text to generate images. Mid-Journey came along for high resolution images last year. And then we saw, I'm forgetting the name of the company, which basically created videos out of them. There are other platforms which has taken and say now you can create transcripts and put animations and the animations can talk. All this is happening like in parallel. while this whole text revolution was coming, which is a large model can answer questions, generate emails, summarize things for you. So these were two parallel stream for me. With Sora, they both came together. You saw diffusion combined with scale of transformers. uh, Harsha, go ahead.
So a couple of things stood out for me regarding the Sora, and I followed the Twitter thread, went viral and exploded with everybody, Sam Altman and this thing. The first thing was the mention of physics, the physics of motion, animation, scenes, and interaction. So that was very interesting because that is more of a feature of advanced game engines like Unity and Unreal Engine. The second thing was they chose not to release it generally to the public. So the current state is it's being tested. There's a few I think called red flag team or something like that. The few people are testing it out and making sure it works well and it doesn't have those harmful consequences or the fiasco like Google Gemini had. So I think it's a very pragmatic and a smart move by OpenAI to make sure it works well. And then once it goes via open and public, there is no negative, backlash or publicity that can come about. So I think it's pretty good. Of course, I'm disappointed that I'm not able to play with it or create those things. But Mr. Altman says, "Give me your prompt. I'll do it for you." That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody's going to give them the prompt, right? That's the challenge. People are only become creative when they actually start seeing things happen. So, that is like, means obviously people will submit, they will pay them and do it. Exactly. I echo everything Harsha said. We'll talk about Google and we'll talk about Alibaba. Let's talk about Sora. I think the difference is that it has minute long video. Why? High visual quality and coherence of visual experiences. So you can see when the scene changes, you can see that it is real and it was high quality and it is 1 minute long. These three I have not seen. Like I've seen separate things here and there, but like why 1 minute is the limit they are saying, right? Harsha, if that's what you were asking, that's what they are saying. It will generate 1 minute videos. That's if they can do that first, that would be, I think, something very novel and exciting. But other than that, uh, they have not claimed beyond that. So that's what I was talking about. If you look about tech, it's a diffusion transformer. I have attached the paper to our slides. I think all of us should read it. The idea is that diffusion is this process where you take an image and add noise to it, and then let the model decide, figure out what noise is added. And then on the other side, you take some noise, and if you can remove the noise, you can generate new things. And when you generate new things, you can pass the objects through text prompts or what these objects would be, and then it tries to converge to it by removing the elements which is not voice. So that's diffusion in nutshell. I think we should do a whole session on diffusion. But the cool part here is that we have vision-based transformers and we have diffusion models. And if you combine them, you have this scaled diffusion transformer paper or scaled diffusion technique where they do two things, which is like text. We take text, words, and a transformer predicts the next word in the sequence. Similarly, you can take the video, convert it into latent space, into something, uh, a latent space representation, and then convert. So imagine like each frame is a patch, and that is basically a word. And then if you can put them as a series in a time series fashion, then you can predict the next word. Similarly, you can predict the next patch. And if you take it to a different space, then that patch is nothing but a new frame for you, or the aspects of those frame. So that's uberly how they did it. And the cool part is, and you can address this, what you get with scaling laws application to vision. So the cool part here is that now you can apply the scaling effects of transformer to vision applications or video applications, which is that if you put throw more, the beautiful part about transformer was that it continued to scale, learn, and stay generic and continue to evolve when you increase the size of it, or that meant trained it on larger chips. That meant what Kalpan was talking about, all you needed is more chips, and that became your moat, right? So similar laws can be applied to video. That is the scaling laws of vision. I will just land one more idea, and then Harsha, all yours. uh, this is the first one where they claimed emergent uh, attributes, abilities. So other thing with transformer was that you were training it for one task, right? So you were saying that, hey, we are going to train this on doing just one kind of task, which is, let's say, sentiment analysis. But when you actually trained it with generic enough data, you saw it was able to summarize, and it shows emergent new behaviors which you were not even thinking of. And this is the first model where you saw emergent behaviors, and it can do more things than what you are trying to make it do. So that's the new thing that stood out, or it's new or novel specifically. The tech was always there. Diffusion transformer, I think it was came in 2021. VIT was there when I was at Facebook, so 2018, 2019. So all these were there, but bringing them together, making them so that you can actually compress the videos, put them in patches, so you can train them like how you are training transformers, and then put lot of compute to it, is able to get you what emergent abilities. And the last part that I think makes the tech is this idea that you can take the models and lot of uh, captions of those, and then you are able to, if given a model, you can say what is the caption of this model. You can predict. That's the model clip does. Or if given a caption, you can actually generate the model then. So that's basically text to video prompting, text to image prompting. Clip enabled the text part of it, which is how can you take text and actually make meaningful attribution of it with the image. They're able to do that same logic, but for video. So when you write a text which says, hey, a woman walking across the street doing this, they go back and say what a video of that would look like, a description in a video, which is first frame do this, second frame do this, third frame do this, make these conditions move also. So they have trained a model which basically generates a lot of insights or captioning of the video from just a simple prompt that you give it. So these are the three things that stood out for me. Harsha, go ahead.
Just a request for a future session, just how vector databases are very integral for large language models. I'm very curious to learn about what data architecture or storage architecture is inherent for large vision models. So how do they work together and how do they do this? Please, if you can cover in a future session, that
Yeah,
would be great.
I think diffusion is the new thing right here. Like where you have embeddings here, diffusion is the thing, and then converting to patches. But other than that, uh, for like language specific thing, it's not like anything different. Same embeddings, and to store embeddings, you need vector databases. So I think it will be a good session. It's a very good one to see like, do we see anything vector databases like coming? Because if we would have predicted vector databases before Pinecone became Pinecone last year,
Right.
uh, I think we would have been in a good place. So let's double click on this paper and see what are the components, what can be generalized as what general application is needed, which could be a way to store these patches, which could be a way to convert this uh, text to video descriptions, the whole thing as an API, see what those common component would look like, and maybe do it. Harsha, I would volunteer you for this. I'm happy to spend time with you if you take it.
Sure, absolutely. And the second idea, before I forget for a future session is I've been playing around with Open AI Vision, right? So you can feed it an image and it starts describing what is in the image. And in fact, in many cases, even able to give the prompt, what it thinks is the prompt for that image. So I would be very curious and thankful to you if you can cover it in a future session, how the reverse thing works.
Yeah,
You know,
I think that's what you will see here also, right? In Sora, there are three ways you can actually talk to Sora. One is you give them text and they generate the video. You can actually give them an image and ask them to do animation on top of that image and say, hey, here is my image, make it move in 360, make it move in this direction, make it in this world, do something. And then you can even give a video and say, extend this video into like a new scenario, or change this video context, saying from a desert to a beach, from a beach to a stadium. So all that can be done now. So this is superpower, right? That we are getting, and you saw like how they were doing with simulation on Minecraft. So if somebody asks you about Sora, start here. Like talk about this slide first, and then talk about what are the use cases. Can somebody other than Harsha give me any movie specific use case?
You can create shorts.
Correct. And you can, moreover, great, you can create short, you can actually productionalize things, you can actually create new scenarios, because sometimes we just show humans imagining in a movie, and all those imaginative world can be now offloaded to AI. Another thing that there's a lot of back office. Think about like a product manager. Most of these things, as you will see in next slides, have limitations. Sora will have limitations. First time you just see only fancy things, but when you actually open the cover, there are a lot of limitations. So instead of going off like the killer use case, try to think of the back office use.
Did anyone else lose him?
Yeah, Mahesh,
Uh,
your
I
audio,
can't hear you, Mahesh.
Mahesh, your audio is gone.
oh, yeah.
We are just hearing static from you, Mahesh.
Not yet. No.
No.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. And I can hear you now also. Sorry for that. So we were talking about the use cases, and movies was one, and I was just saying that instead of coming for the killer use case, going for the killer use case, try going for the close enough killer use case, which
Mhm.
is, instead of saying, oh, this will produce movies, say it might help in editing movies. Because if you look at the cost of producing movies, it's not about like actually taking the shots, it's like taking too many shots and actually editing them and making it a worthwhile experience. So now less of that, and there will be more. I would just want to go ahead and click on few things so that.
Can I add one thing, which is I think is a very killer use case? This is for reinforcement learning for robots. So if robots need to have simulated environments, physical environments in which they have to navigate, find their things and do things, like picking. So we need to create scenarios for them, and this is going to be awesome. 1 minute video for one use case, like like robotics in a warehouse, like what Amazon does. This is going to be very good for training them.
Absolutely right, and that's one of the killer use case. Another is education, right? We have always tried to invest in education. You saw what Khan Academy was able to do, taking like education from books to videos. Imagine now, like there is this video repository that anybody like me coming up, and ability for me to actually generate videos of showing you like what's possible, and anybody who's like trying to teach can teach with videos now. So that's another big one. And if you go to next one, you gaming, right? No brainers there. We already talked about what Unity does, and like now we can create these virtual worlds and virtual actors. It's all about narrative. There's a company called AI World or something who got 100 million or 150 million funding, and all they were doing is using AI to create simulated games. So I thought that was amazing. And so gaming is another one. And then you talked about it will come next, but healthcare. Anybody, any ideas? How can it be used in healthcare?
Um, I'm um, I'm working on something called art therapy, so it might be very useful for the therapeutic aspect, and in managing emotions and mental health. So creating videos based on user preferences will be a very good.
Yeah, and I think the broader scenarios are basically a lot of images that people need to understand, and to understand or train those models to understand those images. Getting those images is really hard. Now you can generate them. Second is simulations. Seeing protein simulations on how they fold has been a bigger challenge. Now we know how they fold, but now can we predict application of drugs on how these protein folds and how they react and see them live? That has never happened. That's another possibility now in healthcare space. And then I think you covered already robotics, right? This whole idea that how will robots get trained, how robots see the world, can we see make them see things before. So with all that, also there are limitations like challenges in physical realism. It's not able to. You have seen that, right? They talked about this in their paper, which is like if you take a bite, the burger is not going away. If you break a glass, the glass is not shattering. So all these are like real things. Before you go and implement these use cases, if you can't solve that, you will always have that glitch. And believe me, right now you're just seeing their generated videos. Once you start generating them, you will see how bad it is. So that's one big limitation. Spatial and temporal complexities. They talked about this idea in the paper, but the idea is that what you are trying to tell it, it doesn't take that or doesn't place the things at the right spot, or it brings in additional actors in the scene. So now you're trying to say, hey, create a video of Mahesh working with a lot of AI tools, and now AI tools, it has bring on like some goats behind the scenes because somehow it thought those are AI tools for Mahesh. And now you were trying to say, oh, don't bring that thing which is a good, and then it says, okay, not that but this, and then you continue iterating. So that's the other one. And another is human computer interaction. It's really hard to actually articulate what you want in an image. I have tried that for generating this session's poster. I wanted an image and I tried it with ChatGPT, and it gave me some kind of BS, which is stage and like different things. It can't write stuff. And then I was like, okay, I kept on trying for like half an hour and couldn't get anything out. Imagine trying doing the same with video. They have not shown anything like how are we going to interact with these, how they going to take that forward. Only prompts, I think, is a limitation. And the last one is usage. Nobody's able to use it. Another thing is they have only shown 12-second videos. They claim 1 minute, and I suspect it just takes more time to go from 12 seconds to 1 minute. And if they had 1 minute, they would have shown it. So that's another one. And third is like just who can use it. Right now they said red teamings, but when can you actually take it? Maybe it's next year. Sometimes you don't know. So sometimes it's like Elon Musk saying, hey, we will launch this truck tomorrow. It doesn't show up for next 3 years. So these are the limitations that I could think of. Please think on your own. I will just continue, given I want to touch upon the things we were discussing earlier. What are the major concerns? Trustworthiness, right? Could you actually get or trust? It's not going to hallucinate. It's not going to create. So imagine, right? when you ask to do it an essay or ask questions to ChatGPT, it hallucinates in such a cool way that you don't know. And now you are trying to create courses and trying to say, hey, simulate a universe and show this, and it hallucinates shit out of it, right? And then you don't know. You've never seen universe. Have you ever? Today we believe these directors of avatars and these movies who do so much research behind the scenes, hire the experts, understand how those things will work, and then try to portray that on screen. Nothing of that is happening behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, there is a top bullshitter who just generalized on everything and is going to give you worlds. And are you going to just take them? Are you who's going to trust those things? If they are really imaginative, it's they're really transformational. Basic things, yes, but who wants to watch basic things? How many times have we seen like popular things or things becoming popular if they were so basic? We don't want, the humanity doesn't want basic things. We want exciting new things that we have never seen, or some kind of imagination. And those imaginations are hard to trust. Second is jailbreaks, safety jailbreaks, right? uh, Last year, like, the concern was chat gpt you can actually break in. They put a whole red team. They thought that, bombs are hard to create. You can't take suicidal advices and all. And then we saw middle of the year last year that if you fine tune that model with like at least two or three samples, the whole logic of their red teaming was going away. And then you can do whatever you wanted by just retraining with two samples. So imagine that. And then this year we saw Mistral actually went ahead and said everything is open. So anybody can just take that and now understand it and use it. So the whole idea of us getting into safety is gone. You've seen hallucination. We talked about it under the trustworthy pinners. And then privacy, right? They have trained right now on 250 million hours or something, or 250 hours of video, and then some million of images. What if the privacy of people's spaces? And as you start seeing all this, it's just becoming a virtual world, or like this have world simulator, a world simulator who has your images, who has your house images, who have your child images, who has your dog images in it. uh, think about that. Think about what you would do with it. Ankit, go ahead.
Yeah, I've heard hearing more and more about this world simulator. Could you shed some light? Because I've also heard another term called world model. What is world model?
Yeah, I think our world is made up of like three or four things. Like what we talk about, we say we are able to uh, read, write, we're able to see, and then we are able to simulate those experiences. So if you look at a multimodal thing which can actually represent our world,
Okay.
becomes like anything correlated to world. And Sora comes in and says you can actually create these worlds by saying text, so you can simulate these worlds. And that's why the word Sora, a world simulator, which is that it brings all the multimodalities but in a way that you can actually use them at scale. So imagine, right, we can actually create these worlds, which is the idea behind uh, metaverses, that you can actually create a completely new world and go and live in it. So it takes us one step forward towards that hyper realism that we as humanity has always wanted to imagine, or at least not bounded by the imagination.
Thank you.
Again, fairness and bias. How fair is it to you? How biased is it to your color, or your ethnicity, or your gender? And to that, you saw one thing, that when you spend too much time making a model unbiased, you end up biasing on the other side. So there's this always a balance. That's what happened to Gemini. It's not that Google is just like ignoring this. Google wanted to make a model which is not biased, because they had time to bake these. They went ahead and make sure that the model is not biased, but they didn't check what an over-biased model will look like for a certain specific circumstances, specifically asking a model like who were the forefathers of uh, America, or who were the founding members of America. And now my model is like super unbiased, so it thinks it should be all the colors. So that's what, like, the balance that you should be bringing. So you should be thinking about these problems. Think about the tech little bit, But think about the use cases and how in each use case or an industry you are targeting, how are you gonna cover yourself for these concerns to ship something. uh, that's all I had on Sora. I'm gonna skip emo today because emo is another box. If I open it, we will be done. I want to take 10 minutes to finish our discussion on ROI, if that's okay with all of you. Okay, Brijesh said okay. If Brijesh says okay, I just take it, right? And Kalpan said thumbs up. So I think we are good to go. So we were talking about this. What are you asked to do? You're asked to do is you are brought in and people are saying, hey, and we'll go a little fast. I will take question in the end and we'll try to wrap up in 10 minutes. Okay. Just go for a ride. Okay. So, and I will love you to take another session which combines these. Anybody who want to present to the community sessions, please let me know. Ping me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to help you also build that. It's not fun for me to just talk here. I would love anybody to just come in and talk. Harsha, I will take your questions later. I know you wanted to talk. You wanted to take a session, so that is taken, and we'll take it. What are you asked to do? There is a company. The company has metrics. You are asked to do and enhance or make them super cool. And you claim that AI claims that we will make you more efficient. We will make you do more things with lesser effort because we are generalizing what does AGI generalize? Not storage, but
Compute.
compute. Awesome. So because we are generalizing compute can be thrown at anything, and because compute is cheaper than humans, you're going to get more benefits. So that's the impact. But how will you measure the impact of your AI? It becomes like copilot efficiency. Same the Gmail idea, which is like what Gmail did to storage. We are trying to do it to everything that needs compute or human labor. uh, we talked about this idea of a legal company, basically a company which looks like this. Bajesh told me to show you guys because he knows the company and you don't. So this is the problem statement that this company or this team is going after. What they're trying to do is, if I log out, hopefully, then I can show you. So basically, they are saying, hey, contract processing is hard. Why don't you take this back office job? Let the lawyer solve the biggest problem, do the negotiations with your customers. But once you have signed the contract, let us help you monetize it, which will extract all the key things from the contract and put it in some kind of database to store them. Right? Though that job was taking a lawyer like 6 to 8 hours. We talked about this use case, and then we talked about like how can they do it, and then we talked about how should they measure their we were discussing how can they measure their effectiveness or their productivity. uh, then we talked about quickly evaluating a model. I showed you guys the helm chart like this one. The helm chart, please show up. Yeah, so we got that. So we talked about like, okay, you came in, you are looking for a model which is accurate for your use case depending upon your industry and use case you are trying to solve, which is if you're trying to solve a Q&A, or you are trying to solve a language problem, or you requires a lot of like legal specific things which they have a data or they have a paper. And then you can compare the model. You can take these models and deploy them. We also saw it from cloud providers. We looked at like GCP and Azure. They also had a fancy way to compare models. You can compare models as you ship the model. We saw that it's really hard to actually judge is it doing a great job or not, because the results are subjective. There is a challenge with how coherent it is or how much context understanding it is getting. uh, it has to understand the user intent by just a prompt. That was a challenge which no model actually said they're going to solve. It's your problem to solve. And then everything that used to measure them is also evolving while you're trying to ship this product. uh, what you ended up doing is you ended up setting up some human level metrics. So basically you came up with this idea of three criterias. How will you evaluate your model? You wanted your model to be helpful, honest, and harmless. Remember these three, triple H. If anybody wants to talk about evaluation of any AI today or AGI, just use these three first, and then try to break it into what does a helpful model will look like. Is it trying to solve the problem with what accuracy, or how it solves? Is it supposed to be succinct or not verbose? Uh, does it give key information or not? And then your job is to set the criteria for launch. And how you set the criteria for launch, look at what out there, what the best in that is already done, like the largest biggest model, what is the ceiling on that. That is the ceiling is never 100% here. The ceiling is what is like proven tech out there in public with the largest greatest thing. Then see what the industry is able to do. If anybody else, your competitor are comparing, or if your competitor are shipping, what are they shipping with? Third, talk to your dev team what is possible, because your dev team will be constrained by the people who can work, or how many experiments can they run. So what they have seen. And then see inside your company, what are the standards your company is following. If they have a responsible AI practice, if they have a responsible AI practice, they must be talking about these three things, but in a different way. They might name them differently, but they will help you figure out these limits. So that's how you set up these limits. Last time, that's where I left. Ankit asked this question and I couldn't answer, or I answered, I don't remember. But let's go forward. But after that, what happens? So you put it in out there, you figure out that, hey, these are my numbers. You set these expectations and it's bad. Then we talked about in our first session that you can actually use these popular patterns. So one is prompt engineering. You can modify your prompts. You can iterate first further. If that doesn't help, you have contextual data, your company, your information. You can bring this technique RAG in. And if that doesn't help, then you can actually go ahead and fine tune your model also and bring in fine tuning. So that's the idea around, and then you get better outputs. You continue to iterate around these three, and hopefully you will get the results you expect. Now you have put that, and you actually ship the model, and now you're looking at scale. So first, you won't ship it to everybody in your company. So imagine like that contract example. You will try to ship it to maybe one or two internal customers and get that helpful in real deployment. How helpful it is, how harmful, how much honest it is. Once you continue to see stability, you want to scale it. When you want to scale it, you are looking for much more better way to measure your accuracy rather than putting humans. Because last time somebody also asked that, uh, okay, seems like a lot of hiring. If I have to hire people, first they were doing the job, now their job is to actually see if AI is doing the job. But if humans are evaluating whether it's harmless or not and what your harmless score is, then humans still have a job. And I think that job will not go away. We will still need a lot of subject matter expert to say yeah or nah on shipping or deploying these models in human evaluation or human feedbacks. Then there are metrics like recall, which I converted here for you in terms of retrieval. How will you use it to measure the quality of retrieval? So here you can check and say, hey, if I have a recall, I can just take it with an example. If you look at this, uh, means I can, what do you guys think? I have a lot to talk. Can we talk next time? Let's just cut it.
Mahesh, you have a very specific session just for precision recall. Yeah, the one that I also commented. So I can post the link here. So yeah, you could proceed
Thank
forward.
you, Ankit. You're a
Perfect.
delight. So watch that session. This is your homework. Watch that session. Read the Sora papers. I attach Sora papers here, and let's continue this discussion. Because what I want to talk about is recall and precision. The session you have makes you understand like false positive and false negatives in a recommendation space. This session I want to talk about, and I will do exercises hopefully so that you have the concept clearly articulated in your mind, is how it applies recall and precision in terms of documents, retrieval of documents. How can you measure your RAG system effectiveness with recall and precision? So let's talk about that, and then I want to talk about all the cool metrics around new cool metrics. So I think that's what a good session would look like. Maybe we'll need another 20-30 minutes on this. I am glad we were able to spend a lot of time understanding the space and understanding like what more we need to go do. Happy to take any questions. Harsha, go ahead.
I was just wondering if including model drift and degradation would be useful and worthwhile in this metric sessions. So is model drift a big problem in LLM based RAG based applications?
Yeah, I think it is, but it was more of when you were actually going and fine tuning. Once you start fine tuning the model, or the model keep changing. So the model is not changing, right? If you're taking a common large language model, it's not changing as rapidly as your trained models were changing. Second, your data is not changing. It's not dumb anyways, because it's changing at a good enough pace. So the drift happened because of two or three reasons. One is the world changed before your model changed. So you are getting different kind of input data, then you have trained the model. That's why the drift. Second use case of drift was that you were training model on a very different kind of data, and you screwed up showing a new model to the world. Third kind of drift was that people perception changed, how you evaluate, or what they start expecting depending upon what happened in the world, and now you have a huge drift. Drift is this idea that when you launch the model, it has a certain accuracy, or it was able to solve problems at X% helpfulness, honesty, and harmless. But after deployment, the model has drifted away from where you were, right? So you woke up on next day, and now your model is harmful suddenly. It means it has drifted away from the benchmark you have done at the time of launch. And that used to happen with generic models when they were not updated that frequently, or the world was changing fast. I'm not seeing that, Harsha, a lot with these large language models, because every 3 to 4 months there is a new update, and before you can actually. And the other reason of that is that a lot of things are not yet going to production at the scale. So I agree with you. I think plus one to measuring drift. It just that may not be the first scenario, because the models are generic, and what they claim is generic also. So it's hard to put that drift metrics in place because you don't have the ground truth data which the model is trained on. So if you're going to train your model from scratch, yes, I'm 100% with you. But if you're going to take a closed source model like GPT-4 or Claude, then it's hard for you to do it. Means you want to do it, and I am highly recommending you to do it. It's just that how will you do it? And I think double clicking on that would be useful.
No, I think it fits into your Venn diagram where you showed about prompt engineering, fine tuning, and RAG. So as you go from the closed models with prompt engineering to fine tuning and RAG, some amount of model drift may come into the picture. But
Yeah. So fine tuning, right? And that's exactly right. After fine tuning, you have to have all the things that needed for tuning, which is you have to do A/B testing, you have to do drift mechanisms. So plus one on that, completely on same page. If no more questions, I would like to call it a day. I think we have, in just 3 attempts, we have gone so good that we are able to finish things on time, which we didn't today. But we're able to make it live. Last time we were able to store the video. So we have a video. Now we have a live session. And I think the quality of questions have been improving. I am putting a bar on how many people actually show up here. I have more people requesting these sessions than coming in. So continue to ask you to broadcast the live video on LinkedIn. I will also paste the link of the video. So, and if you recommend somebody, I'm only taking recommendation now to invite. So please let me know if you want me to send an invite to someone. With that, another last thing, a friend of mine is hiring a technical program manager in Microsoft. When I was there, everybody was called program manager. She's looking for AI ML space, and she handles the HPC, high performance computing clusters on Azure, which a lot of like large customers use to train their models. And she needs somebody who can manage their relationships, understand their workloads, help Azure plan them. So please let me know if you are interested. She's looking for AI ML and infra background, ideally in HPC space, but if not, happy to help. Okay. With
uh,
that note, another thing before I take to Harsha, Next week is NVIDIA GTC. I would highly recommend. That's the conference I love. So virtual is all free. Please go ahead and subscribe to that, and please attend the virtual if you have time. I don't miss the first day. I never miss the first day, and I will continue to watch it. It's just because where they sit in the stack of AI, which is they look at everything because they provide chips for all the use cases, and they will talk about omniverses, which is the multiverse. They will talk about what's coming. They will talk about what's optimization means. So they have such a breadth that I think it's the only course you need to do. One day I will try to sell you a course. That day you can say, Mahesh, I did GTC. Harsha, go ahead. Sorry,
It is
I
just
want.
a it is just a mention. So I've created a Slack channel called hashtag jobs. So if you can share that,
I will
like,
post it there. I will post the link there, and I'm happy to, if you send me the CV, and if you think you need me to just plus one on yours, happy to help.
yeah, I just wanted to mention the community. There is interview practice Slack channel, so we can team up and do peer interviews if we think that's good. For example, Ankit is doing some AI PM interviews, so he can be very useful to all of us. And then the jobs, if you find any opportunities that could be useful to the community, please post there.
Okay, great. But and other thing is, please use the community to communicate whatever you are seeing out there. I take the community feedback to make these sessions. Somebody was asking like how the AI market jobs is going. That's why the session on WSJ. Also, please volunteer yourself. I will spend an hour with you if you are planning to present, because I want to make sure that you get to present more than I get to present. And I think everybody brings their unique perspectives. So I'm looking for people who want to present, and obviously you all are building this community. So when I post the next community link, please share with your network. We want a lot of people to benefit from it. That's the only asks. GTC, uh, our Slack channel, and let's continue to roll with that. Bye team, so much fun. Thank you. Thanks Brijesh for being on camera today.
Thank you, guys.
Bye Sridhar. Bye Swati.
Thank you.
Bye Kalpan. Bye Ankit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mahesh.